When you hear the term pay driver in Formula 1, who's the first person that pops into your mind? Let me guess.
I have never. No.
No.
Never, ever.
Said I have. We'll find out.
I definitely have never done that. I've heard of drivers who have, which is shameful.
Lance Stroll, right? This guy is everything wrong with F1.
It was pretty bad. I was, 12, 13 at school. All the girls liked me at the beginning of the year, and then
Over his 150 plus races, Stroll has had some genuinely impressive moments. I mean, who could forget that shot pole position or his heart-fought podium finishes? Those flashes of brilliance make you wonder if there's more to Stroll than just his family's deep pockets. But then you've got all those other races, the ones where he's nowhere to be seen.
Oh, and there's a massive crash, it's Brendan Hartley, and he's got tangled up with Lance Stroll!
Yeah. Barrel rolling over, that's absolutely massive, and it's Lance Stroll.
Oh, he's coming onto the track just as Lance Stroll. Big crash on board with Lance Stroll.
I crashed. Okay, Lance, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Or worse, making rookie mistakes that a driver of his experience really shouldn't be making. It's these inconsistencies that keep the debate raging about whether he truly deserves his spot on the grid. First off, what exactly is a paid driver? Well, it's not always as simple as, here's a big check, now let me drive your car. There are actually different flavours of paid drivers in F1. Achieving a coveted seat in Formula 1 is no easy feat, and it often requires more than just raw talent. In fact, for many aspiring Grand Prix drivers, securing substantial financial backing is a crucial piece of the puzzle. The path to the top of motorsport is paved with various roads, each with its own set of challenges and requirements. For legendary drivers like Michael Schumacher, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, the support of established companies within the motorsport sphere help propel them through the junior ranks and onto the F1 grid. Even Nigel Mansell was willing to put everything on the line, including his house, in pursuit of his Formula 1 dreams. Then you've got those drivers who got in those coveted F1 seats primarily because of the cash they brought to the table. Take Marcus Ericsson for example. The guy had a whole group of backers pushing him forward. Or how about Pastor Maldonado? He had Venezuela's state-owned oil company, PDVSA, bankrolling his F1 dreams. And then there's our boy Lance Stroll, riding the wave of his family's fortune. Now, typically, these paid drivers have a bit of an expiration date. The usual story goes something like this. They climb through the junior ranks, often with a helping hand from their financial backers. Then they secure an F1 seat, again with a generous donation to the team. But that money can only keep them on track for a short period. Eventually, results have to speak louder than the bank balance. But Lance Stroll, oh boy, he's a whole different ballgame. This guy's got what seems like a lifetime contract with Aston Martin, the team his dad Lawrence conveniently owns. In 2018, Lawrence Stroll's purchase of the financially struggling Force India team, which he promptly renamed Aston Martin, further cemented his son's path to the F1 grid. With an entire team tailored to his needs, Lance Stroll had a clear, well-paved road ahead of him. This situation has, understandably, drawn criticism from many quarters, with some accusing Stroll of being undeserving of his spot on the grid. But is this assessment fair? To fully understand Lance Stroll's journey, we need to delve deeper into his junior career and examine his performance outside the glare of the F1 spotlight. As a young driver, Stroll's early years were marked by impressive achievements in the karting world. He won the Canadian Karting Championship in both 2008 and 2010, as well as the highly competitive Florida Winter Tour. These successes caught the eye of Luca Baldessari, who signed the young Canadian to the Ferrari Driver Academy in 2010 when Stroll was just 11 years old.
I started racing at the age of 8 years old. My dad owns a racetrack in Canada, and he bought me a go-kart for my 8th birthday, and I got into it right away. It was a huge passion of mine.
Stroll's transition to car racing in 2014 only seemed to reinforce his potential. He absolutely dominated the Italian F4 Championship, claiming the title with a 94-point margin over the runner-up. The following year, he showcased his adaptability by winning the prestigious Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand, further solidifying his reputation as a driver on the rise. When Stroll stepped up to European F3 in 2016, he found himself pitted against a highly competitive field that included the likes of Charles Leclerc, Antonio Giovinazzi and George Russell. While he finished a respectable 5th in the championship, it's worth noting that he actually finished behind both of his teammates, Jake Dennis and Felix Rosenkist, with the latter becoming the series champion. Nonetheless, Stroll's performance was impressive, and the following year he would go on to dominate the European F3 Championship, cementing his status as a rising star in the motorsport world. At this point, it was clear that Lance Stroll possessed genuine talent, and his success was not solely attributable to the financial backing of his family. While the money had undoubtedly played a role in securing him the best equipment and opportunities, ultimately it was Stroll's skill behind the wheel that translated into tangible results. However, the true test of Stroll's abilities would come when he made the unprecedented leap from European F3 directly to Formula 1. This decision raised eyebrows and sparked a wave of criticism, with many questioning whether Stroll had truly earned his place on the grid or if it was simply a case of his family's wealth opening doors. However, since making his Formula 1 debut back in 2017, Lance Stroll's F1 career has been quite the rollercoaster ride, hasn't it? It's been a real mixed bag of performances. On the one hand, you've got to give credit where it's due. The guy did win the European Formula 3 Championship before making the jump to F1, which is no small feat, and he's had some moments in F1 that make you sit up and take notice. Those were the kind of performances that made you think, hey, maybe this kid's got something special after all. Take that race in Baku in 2017 for example. This was only his 8th start in F1 and the kid absolutely nailed it, finishing an incredible 3rd behind the winner Daniel Ricciardo. What made that result even more impressive was the fact that Stroll kept his cool on a day when seasoned veterans like Sebastian Vettel were losing their heads and crashing into Lewis Hamilton under the safety car. That performance was a clear sign that Stroll had the potential to silence his critics and proved he'd earned his spot on the grid. And then there was that qualifying session at Monza, where he put that Williams car on the second row in the wet. Stroll's wet weather driving has consistently been one of his strengths, which he really highlighted when he bagged his first ever pole position at the 2020 Turkish GP.
And he does go pole! 1:47.7. Lance Stroll is on pole for the first time in his career.
If not for a late technical issue, he could have even taken the win that day, such was his pace on those intermediate tyres. But as impressive as those high points have been, they've often been overshadowed by Stroll's tendency to make some really clumsy, unforced errors that just keep putting a spotlight on whether he really belongs in F1. This guy had a couple of shockers in 2024 alone. That crash in Saudi Arabia that took him out of the race.
He was a passenger, sadly.
Hit the wall.
Okay, can you bring it back, Lance?
No, what?
And then that bizarre incident in China where he just ploughed into the back of Daniel Ricciardo under the safety car.
This was at the head. Oh, that is ridiculous. That is a huge hit into the back.
Idiots just stand on the brake, check wing damage.
No, I got hit.
Ricciardo was livid, and rightfully so.
I was just told now that apparently he was blaming me for it, and that if that's true, that I was starting to calm down, but that really pisses me off because I watched his onboard.
These kind of incidents where Stroll just seems to lack basic spatial awareness or concentration have been a real thorn in his side throughout his career. Remember that qualifying session in Australia in 2022 when he just wiped out poor old Nicholas Latifi? Unbelievable.
Run out of time, and there once again the Williams of Nicholas Latifi, and the red flag comes out, and as we saw.
And it's not just the outright mistakes. Stroll also has this tendency to self-destruct when the weekend starts to go south. Like that time in Qatar last year when he got into a shoving match with his personal trainer after getting knocked out in Q1. He threw his steering wheel, shoved his trainer, and was downright rude to a Sky Sports journalist.
What is not clicking for you behind the wheel at the moment?
I don't know.
And how does this change your mindset for the weekend? Is it now a test session? Are you going to go for it in the sprint?
Keep driving.
Former world champion Jenson Button even criticised him for that lack of respect. He was lucky the FIA didn't come down on him for that one. Sure, Stroll has shown signs of closing the gap to his more experienced teammates, but the fact is, he's still regularly getting out-qualified and out-raced by the likes of Fernando Alonso. The head-to-head qualifying record against Alonso is 9-5 in the Spaniard's favour, and Alonso has almost doubled Stroll's championship points tally in the first half of this season. And you could argue that it's not a fair comparison given that Stroll's teammates have almost exclusively been experienced world-class drivers like Felipe Massa, Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso. But shouldn't the young Canadian have at least shown some clear signs of improvement and progression by now? Shouldn't his raw talent shine through, especially when you consider that his family has the financial means to provide him with the very best training and coaching that money can buy? If that kind of investment has been made, we certainly haven't seen the results on the track. Instead, we've witnessed a concerning pattern of bad behaviour from Stroll, often followed by his attempts to avoid any real accountability. It's clear that Stroll possesses genuine talent, but to call him one of the 20 best drivers in the world would be a real stretch. And it becomes even harder to defend him when his actions on the track can be reckless at best and downright dangerous for himself and his competitors at worst. There could be a glimmer of hope on the horizon though. Rumours have been swirling for months that Lawrence Stroll is always open to selling Aston Martin to the highest bidder. If that were to happen, it could potentially nix his son's Formula One future and open the door for a truly talented racer to take that seat. However, the Stroll family's deep pockets can afford to keep Lance in a seat on one of the lower tier F1 teams. So the only way we may see him truly out of the sport is if he or his father definitively decide that this whole F1 experiment has simply run its course. Now, while Lance Stroll might be struggling to find consistency, his teammate Fernando Alonso is absolutely crushing it. He's like a fine wine, somehow getting better with age. It's no wonder the F1 legends are singing his praises. Here are what F1 legends are saying about Alonso.